Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another review by the best boys Getselious and Sithscott. And this time, we'll be reviewing Voodoo Detective by Short Sleeve Studios. And
Yay!
yeah, and well, excuse me, I Short Sleeve Studio. I keep saying the S at the end of it because it's three S's, so I assume it's S at the end. Short Sleeve Studios, Short Sleeve Studios, Short Sleeve Studios. It happens a couple of times. So if I ever say that throughout this video, I apologize. And for you guys watching, please, I recommend you guys sub to the channel, hit the bell as well, and like the video. And with that, let's get on our way. So, Scott, I've recently found out that Short Sleeve Studio is recently new to the industry. They were founded around 2019, and then the developers knew each other for a while, but then they made a video game. So 3 years and they made this game. That's a pretty short time.
I'm kind of impressed because those like 2 of those 3 years were pandemic time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was oof. But you gotta get good work is good work, and yeah. So Voodoo Detective is a point-and-click adventure game similar to, I would say, people who've played Monkey Island, Simon Sorcerer, similar to many point-and-click games you may have seen me stream on twitch.tv slash Getselious underscore, or if you've seen what we played and reviewed on the channel, you should check them out. We've done a reaction video to Simon the Sorcerer, Return to Monkey Island, and we even reviewed some new point-and-click adventure games. So check them out if you like point-and-click games. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell. And before we get into talking about the game, the first topic is already up there: graphics and aesthetics. That we preloaded that because we knew this was going to be a big talking point in this game. First of all, graphically, everything is hand drawn animation. This is, well, majority hand drawn animation. I'm not an art guy, so I wouldn't know. Either way, it's beautiful.
It's really good looking. Like everything that they've done in this to do like the aesthetics and the graphics, I think is fantastic. It looks really good. The animation looks really good, and it definitely looks like they had a lot of like love just devoted to making sure this feel of the island is right with its aesthetic.
Right, exactly. And the aesthetic is like 1930s, 40s, like aesthetic. The that era, and with voodooism. And to me, as a person of Haitian Creole descent, the spoiler guys, I'm Haitian Creole. The voodooism they did in this game, they did a pretty good job of it. They used the spells. They talk. They look about the Loa. They talk about Papa Legma and Bawa Shanti. They talk about the two big ones. Essentially the mortar between the heaven and realm, essentially in layman's terms, and the Lord of the Underworld. I'm just labeled up there. There's a lot of stuff we can get into that, but we're not here to talk about voodooism, at least that much. But they do a
We
really
did
good.
another video on that if we really want.
Yeah, there's a lot of videos on it, and I think they did a good job representing the culture and respectfully. Even when you start the game, they let you know up front, and I think it was a good thing to do because some people have seen voodooism. At least I have growing up. Voodoo not done in a proper way. They would treat it as either a joke or, in some instances, Scott, you can tell them.
Yeah, it's basically just like almost like anonymous black magic.
Right.
Doesn't really give like an actual explanation for what it is. Just kind of it's evil magic kind of powers.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's like it's some kind of like it is. They treat it as some weird occult or joke or some kind of like savage magic stuff, which I don't think it's very nice to do. As a person part of the culture, I'm like, please don't do that. It's a lot more than that. It's a deep spiritual meaning, and for a lot of people who still practice it within Creole places as well as African places as well. So I'm very happy the developers did the aesthetic very well as well as respectfully. So that's 2 points on them right there. And overall, if we have to go for the graphics and the aesthetics, we're gonna have to give it, in my mind, a solid 5. What about you?
Solid five. I think that's one of the strongest parts of this game.
Yep, yep. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the audio of the game and the music and the sound effects of it. This game has excellent score, done by Peter McCollum and great fame. It's just really good. It has this really blend of like jazz and island music. It's done really well.
Yeah, I really appreciate how the music gets in this game.
Yeah.
I really love just kind of actually listening to some of the songs too, especially like the home screen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like it just sounds really good.
I also like hearing the harmonica play, so that's really nice too.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
got some
sounds
solid blues.
yeah. And I think another thing that's really good about the game is, which does a lot of credit, the voice acting is phenomenal for every character. It's really good. Every
Yeah,
character.
there's a lot of good voices in this.
Yeah. Like no spoiler. Oh, you probably seen us play the video on YouTube if it's uploaded. We talked to Billy Donut, your brother. Don't yeah, he's great. Donut Billy, he's great. And I think the game does a really good job. Is not only the voice acting is there, every character is distinct. You can just know them by sound or even just by look and sound. Like you're talking to Eartha when you hear that kind of heckle in her voice. You're talking to Crumsford when you hear that snill, like that snort he does, like a twitch. It's definitely like
Yeah,
very
they have
distinct.
really good audio cues with the characters.
Yeah, it's
One
really
thing I
good.
also think is interesting of this game is they have very specific dialogues for their characters. The
Yes.
things that get said and stated from specific characters, I don't think could come out of any other character's mouth, and I think that's a really solid thing that this game does.
Yeah. Yep. That's definitely what I agree with, and I gotta give the audio and sound a solid 5 as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Bam. That's two fives in a row. This game is already on a good track. But then we got to talk about the hardest part of the game, which is the thing we all gonna have to dread. Gonna talk about the gameplay. All right.
Actually playing the game.
Actually playing the game. Okay. So this is a point and click game. You're going to get frustrated. There are puzzles in this game that range from logical to kind of smirky to straight up cartoon logic. Cartoon logic is logic that's just no way you would have figured it out that feels illogical. I think that's the way to describe it, right, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's like the those puzzles hit you at random times kind of feels that way. I think one of the parts of the gameplay that I do feel is really well done though is that in I guess slight spoiler, you cast some voodoo spells, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, but since all the voodoo spells in the game are like given to you very early, you have an idea what spells you need to do because usually each section of the game will give you an item that pertains to that spell, like a guaranteed version of the item. Let me put a spoiler in head. There is a spell that you use to knock out someone, and you need to grab a certain type of food to get it. Once you get that food, you have an idea that you're gonna have to knock someone out. Right?
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. Then you have to get to that point. I
Yeah, I think it's interesting with that because the puzzles are, for the most part, pretty sensical. The problem is the ones that aren't sensical, like the cartoonish ones, will get you stuck,
right,
and that kind of takes you out of the game.
right. Like how some of them I feel kind of ignore a bit of logic. Like and again, no spoilers. There's a puzzle where you have to get a hot liquid to make an item, right? And you're stuck on an island, and you help a guy get some hot liquid, but that's not the hot liquid you need. You get to get the hot liquid from another location, but it's like what? That kind of made no sense to me at the moment. That was one particular puzzle. There's also another puzzle with the everyone's favorite dreaded statue wombo combo. So that's a thing. You got yeah. There's some puzzles in the game that can make you definitely feel like what am I doing here or what's going on.
Yeah, no, I will say, in order to help like understand it, sometimes it actually is good to listen to what the audio says when Voodoo Detective actually grabs something, because he'll sometimes give you audio cues of specific things that you should do with that item
Oh,
that we
100%.
didn't really get sometimes until we had to actually try it.
Right, exactly. There's going to be a lot of trial and error doing it, but I didn't feel that much compared to, and I don't mean this as an insult. I recently finished streaming on twitch.tv Getselious underscore. I finished streaming the Broken Sword, the first gun, Shadows of the Templar. And in that game, I played it years ago, and I'm replaying it now, and I realized a lot of these puzzles, if I didn't have them memorized or at least had an idea what they were insanely difficult, insane trial and error. I think that again, everyone, if you like point and click games, please strike out Broken Sword. You will enjoy it, but definitely if if it's your first time, the trial and error is gonna be very high. In this game, not so much, but I only felt a bit frustrated at some of the cartoon logic ones, or even like the hints that were given. I also enjoy about the game is that you can get hints from the game by talking to characters and interacting with items, and sometimes just using the item on yourself is solving the puzzle.
Yeah, it took us a while to figure some of this out because of that.
Right. So once that's the one kind of gameplay aspect. I also want to go flip to talking about the controls of the game. It's a point click game, so the controls of the game are based off you click an item, and you can use it on anything until you click the X item on top of the top right hand side. The item will still be in use. You can combine items by dragging them on top of each other like other point click games. And if you want to inspect an item, you have to hold down your click of choice. I think it's right click. Is it right click? Yeah, right click. You have to hold down right click, and then Voodoo Detective will describe the item to you. So it's a bit. It doesn't really reinvent the wheel, still using one click for everything, but that's about it. I think it's pretty cool. Another thing the game does really well when it comes to gameplay is that you could speed up the animation of walking by holding down the click button when moving, so that can help people who are into the speedrunning community. So if you're a speedrunner and you enjoy speedrunning point and click games, hey, Source Sleeve was out. Source Sleeve Studios looking out for you. And with that, though, that's all I really have to say about the gameplay. I gotta give the gameplay a solid, like, 4.5.
Yeah, 4. I'd probably give it a 4.
Yeah. It isn't really... It's interesting what it does, not revolutionary. It has some parts that hinder it and some parts that were really interesting. I think that one of the better puzzles of the game, at least I teach, which again, I gotta give them the credit for. When you start the game, as you see on the YouTube channel, the Voodoo Detective title screen's on, and then your office is on fire because of the title screen. I think that was a very cool way to teach you how to play the game. I think it was a really cool way. Do you agree with that, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool way too. I like how in the beginning it gives you like the book for everything, so you can kind of like get a feel for what to expect. So I'm kind of really happy with how that works. But yeah, some of the issues it has is definitely from some of its puzzles.
Right, and it's kind of ranges between there. I think no spoiler. I think one of the funniest puzzles, at least one of the funniest puzzle solving in the game, was like towards the final puzzle. And for those who play Curse of Monkey Island, you may get the reference on the type of puzzle that is. So enjoy. But with that, we gotta talk. Now we gotta give the greatest thing about this. We gotta give our game the final score. All right, it sounds good. It plays good. It looks good. What are the flaws that we find in the game? I guess if I had to talk about another flaw I found in the game, is that not everyone has kind of idle animations all the time. Like, for example, the game does a good job of when the character is speaking, they put a portrait model. And if you look at the main character model, some of them may have idle animations, some don't have. So you're just staring at somebody doing nothing if you're not looking at the portrait by accident, or if you just your eyes wander a bit. But that's not like game breaking. That's just something I noticed.
Yeah, it can sometimes take you out when you're like trying to look between the two kind of models. Because
Yeah.
the character will be actually talking, and then the other model that's not talking is going to be doing an idle animation but not showing up, or it's not talking even though the character model is. So it's just kind of wonky.
Yeah, it's a little thing. Maybe not every character has an idle animation, or idle animations trigger randomly. It's not like, oh my god, this game is complete crap. No, it's something we just noticed also to put into. But if I had to give the game a final score, I'm torn between giving it a 5 or a 0, and it's not a 0, so it has to be a 5, right, Scott?
Yeah, I was going to say 4.5, but 5.
Yeah, I have to give it a 5 because all the complaints and negative stuff we have in the game are very minor, such as, like, that's about it. The puzzles can be considered on the harder side of things. It can the range between that, but that's pretty for par for a point-and-click game. You're going to get some puzzles you just steamroll through, then you're going to run to something a little more difficult. There are puzzles I feel towards the end of the game are a little more heavier or harder, but it really depends how well you paid attention and how well you kind of could put pieces together. I think that for a new person playing a point click game, I gotta recommend this one to them, and they will be able to play it and enjoy it. I think the
Yeah,
yeah, and the game is
it's
on
a
a
good
shorter yeah,
stepping on point,
exactly.
especially for those in the point and click community.
Exactly, and this game is on the shorter side, so you don't feel like you're kind of slogging through repetitive puzzles over and over again. So that's kind of good. And the game has a lot of really. I gotta say, the game is pretty funny at a lot of points. The one-liners, the some of the wacky things you do, like slight spoiler, you commandeer a ship. Let's leave it as that.
Yeah. I also really like the Voodoo Detective's lines when he does some of his crazy hijinks too.
Exactly, yeah. And unironically, again, another funny point of the game, I can't laugh. His name is Voodoo Detective. That's his name. It's not something he calls himself. That is his name.
Technically, his title is Voodoo Private Investigator, but
That's
his name is Voodoo Detective.
yeah. So that's just wacky. And Short Sleeve Studio, if you guys are interested, I'm looking. If you guys can, you definitely have a lot of shopping room on the table. If you decide to do with it, a sequel to this game would be pretty cool. I really did enjoy my time spending it, as well as Scott.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And with that, we'll see you guys in the next one. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well. You'll be notified next time I go live. Like the video and give us what you thought about this review. Was it too positive? Do you think we're overselling it? Do you think that I could be a voodoo detective? That'd be great, That would be to quit this job. You think Scott should be a voodoo detective? I mean, he knows magical gotcha powers, don't you?
And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Such as the life of gotcha. Anyway, we thank you guys for checking out the video. Be sure to, again, mention before, sub to the channel, hit the bell as well. Like and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And you can follow us on our social medias, which is linked in the description below. As I mentioned, I stream on twitch.tv, Getselious_. Scott streams on twitch.tv/Scott. And you can follow us on Twitters. Pretty simple, right there. It's at Getselious. Follow Scott at Sithscott. And with that, hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.